Growing up, growing old, and growing this podcast with you guys. On this episode of IMO, we answer your questions that you have submitted and appreciate you guys for getting us to episode 100 of In My Opinion. Let's go! Today is our 100th episode, Alistair, and that's why he is sipping hot chocolate in front of a toilet with his girlfriend, while the rest of us are actually here doing the podcast. The rest of us being me.
Thank you for sticking us for 100 episodes. I think maybe the novelty of it has worn out for not just you but for us as well. But I guess the 100th episode or like this new milestone is as good of a time as any to kickstart it back again and try to reinvigorate the same freshness that we felt when IMO episode 1 came out.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of In My Opinion. It is our 100th episode. Woo! My name is John.
My name is Alistair.
And yes, welcome. Follow us on all our social media. But before that, let's address the elephant in the room. And that is Alistair is calling in front of the toilet sign in the UK.
Damn right. That's why my internet's so shitty. Sorry for all the pauses. If John never cut it out, it's his laziness. And also, it's very cold now. I'm in a random coffee shop that has Wi-Fi. I had to give out a lot of my private information just so I can be with you guys. But we're going to answer one question and then we will leave it up to John. So just bear the jankiness for 5 minutes.
Bear with me, bear with us, bear with Alistair. But before that, do remember to follow us at Overthink SG everywhere on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, OnlyFans, Snapchat. Okay, I don't have those things. Let's be real. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, not Spotify.
Yes, that's right.
That's about it.
Let's go.
And Twitch, of course. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here in chat. But anyway, today is our 100th episode, Alistair, and that's why he is sipping hot chocolate in front of a toilet with his girlfriend, while the rest of us are actually here doing the podcast. The rest of us being me. So, this episode, what we're going to do is basically we're going to be answering some of your audience submitted questions, and we do have a number, okay? But Alistair will be answering one question with me before he goes on and continues his holiday without us. Anyway, let's dive into the first question proper. Okay, so today we're going to be giving you all some dubious advice and of course even more shady answers to questions that probably have factual answers. But the first question to kick off, correct, and the first question to kick off episode 100 of IMO is this, okay? Why does it seem... Okay, this is a question by Shai. Yeah. Why does it seem like the quality of IMO episodes have dropped over time? And they elaborated by saying the Overthink Telegram chat has not really served its main purpose of having intellectual conversations with each other. Discuss!
Okay, this topic... it's there are some things... it's a topic that I've thought about also. So it's first of all, hi Shai. Don't need to be shy, it's okay.
No need to be shy.
And also... thank you for giving the feedback. I think it's something that we reflect on, or rather I reflect, I'm quite sure John reflects on quite often also. If you mean by, I mean, it depends on what you mean by quality, right? Like, in terms of I guess, the quality of discussions, I think maybe we have gotten a bit more messy because we are a lot more we are a lot more open about sharing our opinions, and we share it very, very openly and very, very almost no filter. So it can come off a little bit messy at times. But I think the main thing that most people will notice is that recently we haven't done a lot of very serious topics or very the normal social justice stuff that we did in the first season of IMO. We did a lot of women's rights. We did a lot about other more pertinent issues in society. Nowadays we're doing more fringe topics. And I think that's, if you want to answer the truthful answer is because first of all, we have already done those topics already, so we don't, unless we have some new thing, we won't feel the need to come in and say the exact same thing over again. And also the second thing is that we have 100 episodes already after a while these topics will start to run out, and we don't like to do things for the sake of doing things So at the end of the day, the new episode topics that come out, they will unfortunately be a lot more niche and maybe a lot less pop, a lot less I guess pertinent in, or maybe more pop culture relevant or relevant in society. It might be more for example the Why Wake Up Singapore film, or talking about Rise Media, how they produce content. Or maybe even next week, because Rise Media is actually coming on next week, another Rise Media episode about investigative journalism. So
that one you will be here.
I'll be there, exactly. So those are more niche and more fringe. But I still think there are pertinent issues. If you are more into like the social justice stuff and like the more like really like talk about like the pertinent issues, I would suggest you go and watch back the previous episodes because unless it's like something that changed drastically, like we won't cover it for the sake of covering it. And also like yeah, we it doesn't bring us any enjoyment. I don't think it brings like any additional benefit also because
Yeah.
I mean it's the exact same thing over and over again. So in that sense, I guess we have the quality of IMO has decreased. And with regards to like the overthink chat being not really much for intellectual discussion, that was what it's meant to be. But I'm actually quite happy with the way it's evolved also because the way it's evolved into now is like quite a family. It's like more lighthearted. Everyone's like a tight-knit community. Not everything there is to discuss like very serious topics. Some people go on there just to talk about like I don't know chicken rice or bubble tea or whatever. And
Yep.
as much as that wasn't our original intention, I still think that that's still a good function of the Telegram channel.
But that
And
being
once in a
said,
while, if there
if
is
you do have
something,
that being said,
yeah,
if you do have opinions to offer, you're more than welcome to start a thread. I believe everyone is always ready for a discussion.
exactly. So like it's like a secondary like yes, the I guess the purpose has evolved or like the main use of it has evolved. But at the end of the day, like if you still want to have meaningful intellectual discussions in the in like the chat itself, I think the community is like more than willing to let you be lah and let you talk about the things and engage in a discussion with you. So I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily that we has like kind of quote unquote failed our objective because I think it's like those like task failed successfully situations. So I think that's how I summarize my feelings for it. How about you, John?
Okay. For me, right, I'm gonna say that I share most of the sentiment with Lester, but at the same time, before we go into that, I do want to say thank you so much for Shai for this question and for being with us all this time. For you to even notice that the quality has dropped because it feels like you've been with us for a long time. I am sad that you think that our quality has definitely dropped, and we'll definitely try to do better to make you feel that you enjoy our content a little bit more. But I do have to say that I agree with Lester that certain topics we really don't want to do for the sake of doing lah. But at the same time, I do understand that we do have to try to increase our pool of new topics to discuss, and that will be something that we'll definitely be doing. And we want to continue to use our Telegram to encourage people to have intellectual conversations. But if the conversations can be kickstarted by someone else besides us, that would also help us greatly whenever we're discussing points of view that not everyone shares, you know? And that was also the reason why we created the Telegram, not just for intellectual discussions, but to give people a space to daringly do it, to daringly voice their opinions. But that being said, thank you so much for being with us. And for everyone else who is in the Telegram and watching this episode, we really, really, truly appreciate you for getting us to episode 100. Might not seem like it with Alistair in front of the toilet sign, but I think it has been great, and I'm glad that like we have reached a point in our community where we get to answer these questions about y'all, and y'all have been following us long enough to feel for us, which I am really grateful for.
Yeah, and I mean like I know I explained a lot of things and these sound like I'm not gonna try to improve IMO. For the longest time John and I have been trying to think of how to improve IMO. We haven't quite got to an answer that is like sustainable and good and something that we both like, but we will eventually get there. Especially once once I get back from my long holiday break, I think I'll be a bit more reinvigorated to restart it and try to introduce some new things. KZL and I were just discussing actually some of the possible things we can do. But I think
I thought you were discussing the souvenir you all buy for me.
I did not buy you souvenirs, John, and I don't think you should expect it either. But I think okay. But go back to the topic. I think we are definitely going to try to improve. We are definitely trying to improve, and it's not. And we are. I mean, thank you for sticking us for 100 episodes. I think maybe the novelty of it has worn out for not just you but for us as well. But I guess the 100th episode or like this new milestone is as good of a time as any to kickstart it back again and try to try to like reinvigorate the same passions that we felt when IMO episode 1 came out, So that's that's my thoughts. I think we will be trying harder and trying to create better content for you guys as usual.
And if
hopefully
you
you guys
have
stick around to see that.
suggestions, it's always welcome. We are two people, and we have been two people for 100 episodes. But at the same time, I feel that we've built a huge base of y'all on Telegram. And if y'all like this kind whereby we reach out to y'all to answer your questions, it could be something that we do occasionally. Yeah.
Yes. And with that, John, I'm gonna need to take a leave.
Yeah. So anyway, for those of you that are watching
Yes.
and whatever, Alistair is still on holiday, so we shall let him leave and use the toilet sign. But before that, any last words, Alistair, before you go and continue your holiday and then come back when you need to come back?
I mean, first of all, like the reason why I even started coming is because it's almost episode 100, and I always like when I was like 16 or 15, I wanted to be a YouTuber, and at that time I wanted to do short films. But now we're doing a little bit different things. Like we're doing an actual like podcast and everything, which is not something I imagined. But to think that 15-year-old me, if I told a 15-year-old me or 16-year-old me that like one day I'll have a YouTube channel and there'll be 100 episodes and that people watching us and actually caring enough to even give us criticisms or even like give us suggestions and have such a tiny community, I think 15-year-old me will be very happy. And that's, I think, and for that, I want to thank you guys for being here and like fulfilling a small dream of mine. And I know anytime on stream, I it feels like I want to give up on life and give up on the YouTube channel. It feels like I really don't want to do it anymore. But like, truthfully, like I promise I will do it for a very long time. And John and I have plans to continue this for at least the near future. And we will continue to work hard and continue to make this better for you guys. So thank you guys for being here. And with that, I will go back to the UK.
Peace. Peace out.
Peace. Bye.
Don't die. Don't get COVID. Okay, bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Alistair Pang, and now it's going to be back to me, and we're going to be answering I'm going to be answering the remainder of the questions while Alistair continues to enjoy his holiday. Okay, now next question. Okay, I'm going to try my best to answer as many questions as possible, but you all must understand that there are simply many submissions, and I will try my best to get through as many as possible. If not, we will reserve some of them for another episode. All right. So first question I'm going to go through is by S, submitted by S. How do you move from the regret and guilt from causing harm to others? I'm not ready to confront the regret and guilt yet. Bracket, which is going to a therapy session, which is what going to a therapy session will make me do. Okay. Now, I think regret and guilt are two things that are extremely deadly to the human psyche. Sometimes, in order to confront your regret and guilt, in some sense, the first step requires you to forgive yourself, right? Before moving on, all you can do is to find a way to forgive yourself, right? And it is often easier said than done. And as much as it's roundabout, okay, and you feel that you're not ready, sometimes the first step to take to ready yourself, right, is one that requires you to stand closer to what you need. So, like, what am I trying to say here, right? It's like, for example, you understand that going to a therapy session will help you feel better, will help you deal with the regret and guilt, but you're not ready to commit to one yet. That's not to say you can't find out about how therapy sessions work. You can't schedule one far in advance if you're someone who likes to put a deadline on this kind of thing so that you don't procrastinate because of your dark feelings. Those are ways that you can approach the forgiveness for yourself without actually sinking your teeth into it fully yet. And I do not envy a situation whereby you have to live with regret and guilt. Regret is one of the worst feelings to live with. So I wish you all the best, and I hope that this has been helpful to you. S. All right, moving on. Next question. We will be going into Song Woo Siop's question. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name, but Song Woo Siop. I hope I got that right. But anyway, Song Woo Siop asks, is it okay to be single for your whole life? Bracket X age, example, age 20 or 25. Be either male or female, and they added love your podcast. All right, Song Woo Siop. I don't know how to pronounce your full name, and I don't want to butcher it any further, so I'll just call it Song. Call you Song. Mr. Song, Mrs. Song, or Madam Song. I'll just call you Song. Okay? Song, I think it is perfectly acceptable to be single for your whole life. You know? If your example, right, I'm assuming the EX, you type that example, age 20 or 25. 20 or 25 is neither old nor young. You are merely in the beginnings of your journey to towards adulthood and towards finding yourself. So much so that I feel that until you hit 30, sometimes a lot of people haven't fully discovered themselves or grown up. And as a result, there's no benefit rushing into a relationship without understanding who you really are. So find out and spend your energy that is currently being channeled into feeling lonely, into instead finding out how you can love yourself better. Because if you're able to know yourself and love yourself better, you will be able to find a partner who will love you for yourself. And I think that's more important than worrying about singlehood for the rest of your life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next question is by, I'm assuming it's CIA, but I'm pronouncing it as Chia? 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 I'm just going to call it Chia. Yeah. Chia's question is, education/university. Should I take a gap year before entering university? I really do not know what to pursue in the future, and I'm honestly very burnt out from poly. But I'm not sure if it's worth taking the gap year because I'm afraid I might fall behind my peers. Any other thing they would like to add? They say more IMO episodes, please. All right, Chia. I'm not going to say that my answer is the be all and all, but here's my take on it. All right. I am someone who didn't take a gap year, but what I did do was that I am a uni dropout, dropping out because of burnout and low performance. I took a leave of absence during curriculum, and then after that, eventually, I pulled the trigger and left school entirely. So my thoughts on this are gonna be related to my own personal experience. I say take the gap year. Why? Because for most of us in our youth, all the way from 9 till end of poly or JC, which is about 18. Yeah, especially if you don't serve NS, then you'll be 18. But everyone has to start thinking or grappling with it at 18. I say take the gap year for the mere reason that you need to recover, you need to rest, and you need to transition. So when you transition, you need to transition to something that you believe in and is sustainable. So don't be afraid of this falling behind your peers. There are many people who take longer routes of study. For example, if you talk about being in poly, there are people who take way of your age who take a bit longer when they go through, for example, ITE and all that kind of thing. If you're a lady, then people going through NS. Do not let that dictate your behavior. Time is important, but squandering time is the worst thing you can do in your youth. Taking a gap year is not squandering your time if you use that gap year to discover who you really are and what you really want to do. And if you already, based on your question, mentioned whether it's worth taking the gap year, right, to try to understand yourself before entering university, the fact that you're considering this, right, shows that you have a bit of an objective in your head. And thus, my advice, take the gap year and fuck whatever else people says. Because You have to live your life. No one else can live it for you. If people are telling you that, oh no, aren't you afraid that you'll fall behind? Remember this in your head. This person that is telling you this has good intentions, but this person cannot live your life for you. Only you know best. And my advice is you take the gap year. Other piece of advice is to find someone else to discuss with. And then eventually, if you're someone who is data oriented, you can maybe get like 50 people who are I don't know, answering this for you. And then eventually what you can do is that from there you will be able to get a concrete answer if you are not able to just siphon info from just one. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, we are back with our episode. And I will be answering the next question, which is by KK. KK asks, is life just a bunch of stories we tell ourselves? And if so, what is the truth? Very deep, very deep. Is life just a bunch of stories we tell ourselves? And if so, what is the truth? If I were to get philosophical with my answer, right? If I were to get philosophical with my answer, I would say life is indeed a bunch of stories we tell ourselves, but that's not everything. So what is the truth, right? The truth is the experiences that we live that become the stories we tell. So let me give you an example. Human memory is very flawed, right? And what is our past if not the condensation of and collection of all our memories, right? So this bunch of stories is our past. Is things that we have lived, right? But the things that we experience and encounter in our present is factual and true. And as such, if life is a bunch of stories that we tell ourselves, what is the truth? The experiences that inspire the stories. Does that mean to say that our past is a lie? No. Our past is the beautiful stories that we tell ourselves and other people based on the lessons we learn from the true experiences we've had. Sometimes these stories are not the most factually accurate, but that's just how it is. Given how flawed we are, telling the stories to the best of our ability is the best we can do to create the new truths for the people we freshly encounter. Hope that answers your question, KK. Now, KK has a follow-up question, which is, how much do you agree with these statements? 3 ways to get paid to write. Okay, 3 ways to get paid to write. First way, lie to people who want to be lied to and you'll get rich. Second way, tell the truth to those who want the truth and you'll make a living. And the third one is tell the truth to those who want to be lied to and you'll be broke. Okay, let me just re-summarize that. How much do you agree to this statement? This statement, not these. This statement. 3 ways to get paid to write. Lie to people who want to be lied to and you'll get rich. Tell the truth who wants the truth and you'll make a living. Tell the truth to those who want to be lied to and you'll go broke. I think this statement is very true in the state of affairs if we're discussing social media. Okay? Hear me out. I don't think this statement is 100% true and applicable to every kind of writing, to everywhere in society. But in the context of social media, this is true. Why? Because like what we mentioned multiple times, right? Social media has this democratizing effect of power. And as a result, along with power comes with the democratization of credibility and democratization of shoot, I lost the word. But basically, it has been very spread out and there is basically no management. Everything is flat. Everyone is equal. Everyone gets a say. Maybe not everyone is equal, but everyone gets a say. And as a result, a lot of the times, if everyone gets a say, they carry their mindset with them. And because you are carrying their mindset, because they're carrying their mindset with them, right? A lot of times, being the flawed humans that we are, you want to be lied to because you want to hear what you already want to hear. And so, just based on that one true logic, there are all three statements are fulfilled to be true. But we do not live in a fully nihilistic, pessimistic vacuum. So this statement is only partially true and not completely true. Why? Because we need to give humans the credit that where credit is due, to be critical and intellectual with their thinking. Everyone deserves that, right? Everyone deserves this thing called the benefit of the doubt, especially when it comes to their way of thinking. And I think when you are discussing these statements about how to get paid and stuff like that, this is highly essential to think about. Give them the benefit of the doubt that people don't just want to be lied to, and that blanket statements don't just apply to everyone. And I think that's my answer for this question. I agree to this statement to a large extent, especially applied to social media. But if you talk about real life where things are more nuanced and people are significantly more diverse, I would say I agree to a slightly lower extent. Yes. All right, next question is by Not Randomology. Okay. Not Randomology / Not Adam. Right. Is Randomology / Adam's pun really bad? Totally not an Adam or Randomology, by the way. Totally. Right. I think his puns are funny sometimes. Yeah. But there are also times where I think it's not as funny as he thinks it is. So during those times where I think it's bad, but most of the time I enjoy them. Lester is not here, so I guess in for my answer, I do enjoy some of them. But Lester clearly has a lot more to say, so maybe we might revisit this in chat someday. So do join us on twitch.tv/overthinkSG, where we get to roast Randomology and his puns. Okay, next question. Where are there... Oh, okay. Why are there so many stages when it comes to dating? Like talking stage, friend stage, dating stage, in a relationship stage. Why so complicated? Here's a perfect answer to this question. Okay? Perfect answer to this question. The reason why there are so many stages is because humans like things to be simple, but humans are incredibly complicated. Okay? Human likes things to be simple, but humans themselves are incredibly complicated. So when you talk about relationships and romantic relationships, since we're talking about dating, right? All these different phases are transitory. All human romantic relationships wants to get from point A of strangers to point B of relationship. Maybe even further for long-term relationship, or even further for marriage, right? But everything in between is complicated and grey. And humans don't like complicated and grey. Humans like simple patterns. Human likes black and white. And as a result, they try to box the in-between phase into many, many easy to identify portions. Talking is one. Friends phase is one. Dating is one. Relationship is one. So much so that this has almost become like a stepping system. So why so complicated is because these steps don't actually exist. They exist in our head, but we want to simplify because we are simple creatures living in a complicated world. That's it. That's all there is to it. More questions, dating ideas, please. Seriously, I haven't dated in years, so bro, it's kind of rusty. Hear me out, okay? Dating ideas, what you can try to do. Don't bring them out for movies. Don't bring them out for movies is the first one. Don't bring them out for movies on the first date. Get creative. Try to bring them on a date where you get to enjoy and showcase your hobbies. That's a good example, right? So I brought Brianna, right, on our first date. We went to the Natural History Museum, at NUS, And that was something that we thoroughly enjoyed, and we got to explore each other's hobby, which is Animal Crossing, and also looking at museums. Worked out fine. That's my advice to you. All right. Next question we have is from the younger one. Okay, my partner and I are 20 years apart. Jeez, that's pretty wild. Not one to judge because I'm 9 years apart, but yeah, we are still deciding whether we want to have kids. 90% no, 10% yes at the moment. Not only that, people are pressuring us to get married and have kids. Sometimes I also feel they disapprove of our age gap. Air quotes disapprove. How do I get them off our back about our relationship and the decisions we will make? Okay. This is significantly tougher to answer. And I think the actionable steps for this gets tougher the bigger the age gap. Now, hear me out. I'm also someone who has a big age gap with my partner. First things first, you need to be able to reach the point whereby you are really fine. Okay, you are comfortable with addressing this. You must not let the age gap define the relationship in that sense. Okay? Okay, well, there is a follow up by the younger one. They did mention that we do not feel getting married is a necessary thing for our relationship, as we feel as committed to each other as a married couple, even if we do not have that piece of paper to bind us. Okay, fine. It sounds like your relationship has reached a point where you all have a good understanding, which is great. More power to you guys. But at the same time, you all need to toe that line carefully. How much is this disapproval or this input from others affecting your relationship? I think you might not be able to control what people have to say about you guys, but you absolutely can control your reaction and how much those things affect you. Even if you are overthinker, overly emotional, you can put in mental preparations for answers for this kind of thing so that you are never stuck with an I don't know. Because if you're stuck with an I don't know, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by the naysayers. Now, that being said, how do you get them off your back? Very simple. You need to sit these people down who most of the time just have your interest at heart. Sit these people down, reassure them, and tell them that, right, in the nicest possible way, that you know what you're doing, you understand that they are concerned, but they cannot live your life for you. If you are destined to make mistakes, they too cannot make those mistakes for you. And this is a tough pill to swallow for people who love you. But this is extremely important to convey to them in a way that they can understand. Some people can be direct, some people you cannot be direct about this kind of point. But you have to let them know that at the end of the day, as much as they are in your life and they love you a lot, they cannot live your life for you. If you're destined to stumble, they cannot stumble for you. Likewise, if you're destined to succeed, they cannot succeed for you. Only you can do your life. No one else can. Everyone else is an innocent bystander. And they need to know that as much as you love them and they love you, they can never go beyond bystander because they cannot live your life for you. And of course, with enough reassurance that you know what you're doing, and with enough active action to tell them that you're living your life fully and not just being swept up by some kind of current, most people will come around. Most people will come around. Most of the time, people are just concerned, but they just need a gentle reminding that you are the only one that can live your own life. They can care for you, they can love you all you want, but they have to let you live. That's my take. Good question, the younger one. All right, next one is by a very familiar name. His name is Denzel. Okay, this is like my number one pet peeve. Maybe it's bigger than a pet peeve, but why the hell are people so bad with their finances and love to live paycheck to paycheck? It's so frustrating seeing peers spending their money anyhow on bubble tea, Starbucks, grab fruit every day like you no legs to buy yourself, grab every day cause cannot plan their time, branded t-shirt, which you can just buy a $15 one at Uniqlo, buy expensive computer that they can't even afford, and are taking on an unsecured credit loan, aka your digital loans such as Pace and Atome. In my opinion, should be regulated more before teens will start going into piles of debt similar to South Korean issues. Like, do you not know how compound interest works? It takes time. The earlier you start, the more you have of it, the earlier you retire. I swear to God, financial literacy needs to be taught in school. Okay, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. All right. And he adds on, also, I just woke up at 12 p.m. when I had an important meeting at 10 a.m. What do you normally do when you oversleep for work? FYI, was working till 4 a.m. last night to finish for said meeting, not cosplaying Valorant or CSGO. Right. Okay. First things first, one thing at a time. Addressing your pet peeve. Now, if your motivation to have this pet peeve is because you want people to be better, then you know what? I'll give it to you, man. That was pretty good. Thank you so much for looking out for people. But at the same time, I do have to caution you when thinking about these things, because it is also not in your place to go and tell people what to do. Now, but I assume you are the Denzel in our chat, so I assume you don't do that. But as a general shout out, I feel I have to say it because you might not be the only person who encountered this, who has this feeling. Right. Coming back to this, I think why people are bad with their finances, right? I am also guilty of not being the most prudent with my finances. But why people are guilty of this is purely because instant gratification, man. Compound interest and watching your money grow requires time. And when you talk about things in the long term, humans are incredible. This is not an excuse or a justification, but this is just facts. Humans are incredibly bad at imagining long time scales and large scale things. Let me give you an example, okay, of our inability to imagine the long term or the very large. And sometimes when talking about finances, these things are easy to see when you're looking at the numbers and if you're able to train yourself to notice these things. But okay, let me give you my example, right? If I ask you to imagine one chicken versus 5 chickens, okay? Visualize those chickens in your head. You can clearly see a group of 1 solo chicken and then a group of 5 one chickens. That makes 5 chickens, right? Humans are great with small, manageable patterns like that. Now, if I told you to imagine 5 chickens, and then after that I ask you to imagine 500 chickens, what does that look like? Not as easy, right? Maybe you can visualize 500 chickens. Maybe you're a farmer. Maybe you've seen 500 chickens before. Fair, right? Now, this is where it gets harder. Okay, and mind you, 50 to 500 is not a very big change in number, right? Let me ask you to visualize this now. Okay? 5,000 chickens, imagine, versus 50,000 chickens. Are you able to imagine that? The difference in scale between these two groups of chickens. Now, a high percentage of you, I'm willing to bet, are not able to immediately grasp the difference between these two concepts. You're probably thinking in your head, there's probably a huge crowd, a huge mass of chickens. But if I ask you to distinctly give me an estimation of the 5,000 chickens versus the 50,000 chickens, which one is which? Sometimes, more often than not, we're going to be struggling grasping that concept. And this is a good example of why people find it harder to understand things like compound interest and long-term things. Because if you really think about it, 5,000 chickens and 50,000 chickens is just 10 times difference. So why is it so hard for us to imagine large scale numbers like that? I have a feeling that before telling you that 50,000 chickens and 5,000 chickens is 10 times in terms of its difference, you wouldn't be imagining a crowd of chickens 10 times bigger than the other. You get me? You get me? Because when it comes to scale, humans have a huge difficulty trying to visualize that. Now, when we talk about the concept of compound interest, it is even harder. Why? Because time and compound interest is almost an abstract concept if you do not have a base value that is fixed. If I ask you to imagine your life 10 years from now versus 50 years from now, more often than not, the blur that you're looking ahead is the same. And you may not even be able to grasp the fact that by 50 years, you may not be alive. That is how our brain sometimes, mess up a little bit. And that's why it's tough, right? And when you're discussing things like compound interest, you're talking about a value so far in the future that you cannot visualize, that you cannot understand, right? And financial literacy, I does agree, has to be taught in schools, but this is also something that is very human nature that is very difficult to unlearn. So I think it is a twofold effort. One would be financial literacy. The other would be working with your friends to try to break them out of this cycle, especially if these friends are important to you. Because you must understand, it is a cycle, right? They don't spend money because they hate money. They don't spend money because they like spending money. They spend money because they don't know and because the things that they get give them instant gratification. Right? Like, can you imagine you go to anyone in Singapore and you ask them why you spend so much money? The answer will never be because I like spending money. No, it's because I want to get this and I want to get that. There are people who will be like, oh, because I like spending money. But that's such a flimsy answer that the first time you hear it, it almost feels like a lie. Because most of the time, that's just their mask for maybe I don't know. Right? You got to work on that. And let them know that financial literacy requires practice and that you can help them wherever you can. That's my take on it. Now, next. What do you normally do when you oversleep for work? I apologize and then I go in late and then I will stay late. But if all else fails, I will ask for emergency off. And then after that, I'll take that L during performance review or something like that. It's an L. You have to do it. And if you're working till 4 a.m., right, request for OT off in lieu. If most of the time your bosses should be nice enough to deal with that. If they are not, quit. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to our very last question. This question is a little bit of a troll question, and I'm pretty sure it's asked by one of my TSL colleagues. But yeah, our last question before we close off episode 100, and I hope you all enjoyed it so far. And this question is by Very Anonymous. Now, they ask, at this workplace called, I quote, the Smart Local, which is the best team? And then after that, or which is your favorite team? There is clearly a right answer. And my answer is, thank you for watching today's episode. Okay, I'm just gonna maybe for the episode I will troll them by cutting like that, right? You never know. But yeah. Which is the best team? I think all teams are great. But if I had to give a not politically correct answer, the best team, my team, will always be the best team. And whatever team I'm in now is the best team. And thus, I am in the creative team. And thus, the creative team is the best team. But, that being said, I feel it's the best doesn't mean it's the best. And just because it's the best doesn't mean the rest are the worst. You know, I appreciate the hard work that everyone does. And but if you had to ask me to pick, I would pick my team, creatives, starter in creatives, went over to Innovate to run my own team, and now I'm back in creative again. And soon my co-host Alistair is also going to be back in the creative team. So if that's not the best team, who is also giving you the best podcast on the whole damn internet that y'all follow until episode 100, I don't know what is. And with that said, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to the 100th episode of IMO. I hope you all enjoyed this journey as much as we did. Thank you so much for always being with us here. And I truly appreciate you guys for following us on this podcast for so many years. And here's hoping, like what Alistair said, we will be able to continue this podcast into eternity with you. But at least into the very foreseeable near future, we will be with you guys. And maybe by the time it is IMO 200, we will be slightly older, slightly more wrinkly, but still be able to give the fantastic content that you guys love. And you guys will be with us because we love you guys. Thank you so much for enduring us, and thank you so much for being here with us all these years. I can't state enough how much I appreciate you guys for helping us grow this YouTube channel and community. And here's to many more years of overthinking with you. Stay safe, don't get COVID, and I'll see you next week. Episode 100, baby.